Hi, my name is Nicole, and today, for my persuasive speech, I'll be talking about the beauty of 35mm film photography and why you should try it at least once. Nowadays, we live in a digital age with big, fancy digital cameras, our phones with us all the time, so you might be wondering, Nicole, why would we ever want to go back to analog? Let's start with what is 35mm. 35mm is a small format form of analog photography. It uses physical film to capture images and needs to be chemically developed to see the pictures it captures. Before digital photography entered the scene, all photos were made with these light-sensitive rolls of film. These film rolls were coated on one side with a gelatin emulsion containing microscopically small light-sensitive silver halide crystals, and the sizes and other characteristics of the crystals determined the sensitivity, contrast, and resolution of the film, which would in turn determine how good of a quality your photos would turn out. So, why 35mm over digital? Well, number one, analog photography requires you to be more involved. 2. Analog photography keeps you focused on the discipline of the art and forces you to shoot more critically. Nowadays, with major digital cameras and with your iPhones, they usually help you correct for certain features, which you can't get away with analog photography because, well, analog photography doesn't have those fancy features. 3. Analog photography is rewarding. Considering having to work so hard for the pictures you're taking, after you see a really good picture or after you feel like you completed a roll, it feels very rewarding. 4. Analog photography encourages photographers to be more thoughtful. Since a roll of film has only a certain amount of shots, unlike digital photography, analog photography makes you really think about the composition and the pictures that you're going to take. 5. Analog photography can produce artistic effects that act more natural than digitally editing them in. With all our editing software these days, you can edit a lot of what you would call makeshift overlays for film, but you can't really mimic the real thing. These are just some examples of personal photos that I've taken that I would consider mistakes, quote unquote, but I say they're equally as pretty in the way they look and they feel. So these would be an example of filters or overlays that you could find online in editing, but they feel more authentic. These would be examples of light leak, light glare, and underexposure. There are so many different looks to film that film can take on, and I think that's why it's such an interesting format. One moment it could feel like you just took a photograph that could have been from a digital camera, and the next the photograph could have such a vintage and grounded feel to it. I took these pictures at Yosemite National Park with my 35mm film. These would be examples of just moments that film can capture that I feel like digital couldn't recreate. It's such moments of rawness and such moments of like, it feels like you could be back in the moment and you could feel exactly like the emotions everyone's going through. And I don't know why, but I just feel like digital film or digital cameras just can't capture emotions in the same way. So, have I convinced you to try? It's simple. You can get these preloaded disposable cameras that are ready to be used from the packaging. All you have to do is follow the instructions on the back of the packaging to get familiar with the camera and start shooting. You can get these cameras at Target, Walmart, and most convenience stores like CVS, Walgreens, and they carry cameras like these in the packaging. So these are just examples of Fujifilm and Kodak, which are two of the biggest brands. And after you're done shooting, please don't forget that you have to develop your film to see your photos. And this is not a sponsorship. I usually get my rolls of film developed at nearby camera shop to campus, literally right across, called Sammy's Camera. They do good work, and you get to keep your negatives, which are the developed rolls of film, which is technically your original copy, in case you want to scan and edit the photos yourself. But if you have no access to a local camera shop that does film developing, you can go to Walgreens, and they offer $15 for film processing, and you get a free photo CD, and you can get printed out copies of your photos. Yeah, I hope you guys go ahead and try film photography. Let me know how you guys like it.